called Brain Lifts artwork. And it is November 1st. Is that Friday? Friday at 7 o'clock at Sage, 305 7th Avenue, between 27th and 28th Street, 15th floor. Everybody got that? And it's free. Okay, so until I got to know Bob Rosenthal, I thought you had to be an egomaniac to be a poet. But it turns out I was wrong. You can be modest, you can have more than one window to view the world, and still be a poet, and a good poet at that. Or maybe that's only the case if you're Bob Rosenthal, who is funny, impertinent, thoughtful, and publicly and unapologetically concerned with morality, which is also brave when you think about it. Bob ran the Monday night readings here way back when with, oh, it was Shelley. I thought it was with Shelley. Okay, never mind. We'll leave that out of the Bible. Sorry, my memory didn't serve. His two books of prose include the cult classic, which just means it's out of print and hard to find, right? Only Richard Hell has it. Cleaning Up New York, and a recent Straight Around Allen about his 25 years as Ginsburg's secretary. I feel like Bob's going to correct every fact that I'm like throwing on there with my rat fingers, my party rat fingers. And that book is awaiting a publisher. Hint, hint. Let's see. He has several books of poems, including the wonderful Rude Awakenings. And I thought we'd like to hear some titles in that collection. So I'm going to tell you some titles. Pretty Vomit, The Virgin Nuke, They Never Found Gold in a Fig Leaf, and To My Baby Spoon and Fork. He also co-wrote with Johnny Stanton the totally great play, Our Version of Heaven. And I almost forgot to say that he was Koff's naked, oh, am I supposed to say this anymore? Are you proud of this? He was a pinup boy. When we did a poetry magazine with nude male centerfolds in Bob was, I know. Bob was Koff's Mr. August. So he has a very illustrious, lineage. Anyway, Bob provided me with what he called a spoiler alert, which explains a few things about the works he's going to read tonight. So here that is, spoiler alert. The poet has more than his window to view the world. He has acquired a Jewish practice. Yes, he said, practice, just like a Buddhist. He has been teaching high school, grading essays, teaching poetry. He is a stubborn son of a shrink. He agrees with Gregory Corso, who said, I don't explain my explanations. So here are explanations. Cover your ears if you do not wish to hear them. You will hear Birkat HaChama, which falls on a 28-year cycle and blesses the sun. The poet has a lot of chutzpah to write this poem. You may want to know that the English word sefer is a homophone for the Hebrew for book. A siddur is a book of prayers. Shadow loss is a reference to Strauss's opera Die Frau ohne Schatten, the woman without a shadow. Baruch Hu is the call to prayer. The shofar is a ram's horn, which makes a piercing blast of sound. The order book was a waiter, Stu Solomon's, from Gramercy Tavern. The poet filled it by taking menu orders of observed events throughout the city. The poem remembering September 11th uses the words tefillin, which are phylacteries, minhag, which is custom, and hagba, which is the lifting of the Torah scroll, held high overhead and shown to the congregation after each reading. The poet hopes this recitation has not spoiled the reading, which will not be lifted to prove that the correct words were read. We will have to keep the faith. From what I've seen of them, Bob's newer poems are awe-striking. It gives me enormous pleasure to welcome Bob Rosenthal back to the Poetry Project.
Thank you, Elinor. Thank you, Poetry Project. Thank you, friends who've come out this evening of imminent danger. A true account of talking to the sun. I don't really, can I just use this for your recording? Thanks. A true account of talking to the sun at the East River April 8th, 2009, 6:42 a.m., Berchat HaKakama at East 10th Street. This very morning, I lie in my bed, not dreaming, not able to rise. The back of my hand flows like a large wave on the ocean under the covers, grazes over a hemisphere an hour out of Halifax. Isaac rises for coffee, and we tread east to await her. Lower East Side is no Russian dacha, no flimsy beach shack. Now I stand at the sun-bleached rail as the East River ebbs in Brooklyn and Queens. Several skeletal high-rise housing towers are going up 28 years. Now again, you won't be able to burn through them, only between them. Now I see you illuminating highest cirrus threads, mauve glow, ruddy boy leans with the ocean flow uptown. I didn't think that you could find me in the 6th floor walk-up dark room. You wouldn't knock at me through a hollow white door. The sun lifts her skirts, a wispy orange dolor eases herself over petrol tanks. Hello, she calls. I look up from my notebook. Yes, I came to you. Good. I forgot your address. The river bows in its center to sing its tiny ululations to her fieriness. You are older than Vladimir and Frank were. I thought you'd be younger. I know, I've been sleeping a long time. I got up many times to look at you rise, but never before to talk to you. It's cold here. Could you move a little closer? She grabs the hems and lumbers over low steepled skyline. Thanks, that's better. I'm old now. I'm colder too. That is until now. So can you tell me, is it my turn? No, sleepy one. You will wake and you will sing, but you will only be heard by the rippling water. The sun is lifting off and rising, enough to turn warehouse windows deep red. Street lamps burn like candles in a lit room. This day is starting. Wait, sun, please tell me something that I need to know. I might not be here in 28 years. She smiles now, I see. Black sunspots on her teeth. Bob, be you unnamed and worthless, without ego enough to kill yourself, I will send a gift of light through you. Every day is the last day of creation. Every day you will rise and gather the beams, the rays, nature's creations, and although your words are drops of fire scud over the water, what you breathe, and they are also your shoes. The people you love, the human comedy you adore, and me, the grand creator, we all say, this is all beginnings which have no endings. Lightly, she rises into the pale blue sky and starts across town. Drive all blames into oneself. I know something must be wrong with me. I don't like George Bush. Normally, I really like liars. I'm mostly to blame for the highly non-competitive profits enjoyed by Bechtel and Halliburton. Personally, I'm sorry that I allowed Israel, China, Palestine, India, Tibet, Pakistan, Ireland, Turkey, England, Greece to embrace the forever death dance. I was wrong to adapt a Wizard of Oz attitude about a rat after the Wicked Witch was gone. Gee, Dorothy, take her broom too. I've been meaning to take the American lifestyle upon myself. I've been a poor consumer, I admit it. I have a little problem when it comes to a lot of authority over naive investors' money. I screwed up at Enron and Solomon Smith Barney. Now with one hand tied behind my back, I'm cooking the books with the international currency to help my Ivy Texas League friends. One of my worst faults was voting away a woman's right to choose. After all, not one of them would choose me. Naturally, you're right to suspect that I have been harvesting gorillas for food while mining scarce cell phone metal in African wildlife preserves. I've been waiting for the right moment to explain how I merged Barnes & Nobles and Starbucks. I'll have a grande poetry latte in my initial cup. I knew almost at once about my mistake when I let the president's grandfather launder money for Hitler, even after 1938. I definitely wavered in my mind when we broke up the old monopoly that worked, the telephone company. I just thought babies were so cute. There is a part of me so insecure in my own marriage that I would deny this shot at legal commitment to same-sex folk. It just don't play into my fantasy. Forgive me for wanting to tap into your credit card purchases, video rentals, and internet visits. I can't help it. I'm curious. I really fucked up on that irradiated food thing, but there were blackouts to think about. I shouldn't have overlooked those power lines either. My shrink can't help me figure out why I put a leaky nuclear power plant just upriver from my hometown and sanctioned a non-viable evacuation plan. It was a bad day. The day I boosted the urban canine slave population. A wimpy pooper-scooper law barely assuaged my guilt, although I do feel bad about all that I did. Still, I shoulder-blocked Pandora to get her out of the way. It's my little key that opens the future. Sorry, let's talk. Safer. In my dreams, I was handed a big book, The Day the Rabbi Was Fired. I read eagerly through gilded pages, yet could only find my own faults. Lazy, hedonistic, impatient, frightened, proud. I walked through the spotty late snow of winter. My step grew lighter, and this heavy book opened its wings and flapped away. And then, in the love of ritual, I opened a small plain siddur. Within its safety, drank the blue sky with the eternal on my lips. I find the way open, just as we left Egypt, to broaden our perspective, now safer in my own expansion. Shadow loss. There is no honey in my veins. There is your bed, over there. Here is your meal from the shining pot. There is no rest on an airplane, a huge mechanized fire. Your handouts are so vital. Sometimes the light in the distance is not your train. Sometimes she's waiting, wide-doored ready, your seat grins. Her name is your sponsor, her pledge lifts your eyes. Your sorrow grows old, extra tired, stiff, smooth as shoe sole, pathetic that way, out of shape, burns that way, love stains don't wash away, we do. Heavy. I'm thinking, I carry the beatings I got as a child. I carry them on me. They are the weight I carry on me. Father beat me for not eating fast enough. I was humiliated with food. I was skinny. I, a finicky eater, slim, I hated fat. I hated peas. I hated things. Peas. I hated peas. I hated peas out of a can. I hated mushy peas. Not as green as in England. He put 2 peas on my plate and 2 eyes on me. He would wait. Watch me eat those poison pills of peas. Those vomit-producing unctuous orbs. Watch. There was no escape. I would take a pea and put it in my mouth. My stomach would tighten, my throat would close, reverse its flow. I'd start heaving out my nose. I couldn't get it down. Jam it on the roof of my mouth, later scrape into toilet bowl and pretend to swallow, not daring to meet his glare. I slept through Barku. Rose too late to even count, and thought, now must be the final shofar blow. I keened my ears and heard the ram's horn blasting, bouncing my way and beyond as sound travels the forest. It is heard, but without direction. This forest is somewhere between my heart and my head. The new year is a clearing, where heart and head can make peace and hear the way clearer. Keep it simple. Seeing things, their elements, a muffin, a 3rd cup flour, a tablespoon sugar, an inch of saturated fat, a nut or 2, a lover, 11.5 ounce passion, inches of cartilage, thimbles of sense, a chain of molecules 35 years long. New York order pad for Steve Solomon. Blue felt coat, green scarf, black shirt, brown leggings, brown high-heeled boots, skating through her book. Chartreuse shoes, below all New York black, dyed blonde, long time, grown out. Orange coat, charcoal pants, orange sneakers, rainbow, book covers under the home. Black brimmed hat, ruddy Russian face, leaning on his lovely one, so many years, red lips. I don't gotta fix it. God bless America. New shoes, blue worker pants, shuffling through, holding open brown paper bag. Flash, picture this fountain where Nick awaited share, where Shell and I sat quiet next to Paul Simon, 5 minutes, said not a thing. Blue ski band, maroon nails, yellow Aristides, bag hugged so tight. All asleep, flannel, shirt jack, hands buried in green, thighs, legs crossed, only nose seen slightly red. Cooling dark plash, children become silent, court garden at night. Sitting alone with Yama, 5 little skulls crown his head. 3 red eyes, death always seems out of proportion. Museum plan, juts out black purse, blue sweater, silver hair. She applies the magnifier to the miniature world. From anywhere, there are 16 directions. Purple hunchback, can't let go. His thumb traces over his fingernails. He has poured over each direction home, but not set out. Nice guys finish last. You see, a guy never knows what to do next. You have to tell them everything. You have to spell it out every time. They just stand there. They just don't get it. They get so mad when you tell them what's next. They do it on purpose. Yeah, they do nothing on purpose. They can't think by themselves. They call spaghetti and meatballs cooking. They can't learn. It's like they're asleep. The Food Channel makes them squirm. They think everything equals sex. They are like dumb. They are born that way. And now they get that hurt look. The same look you get when you step in front of the TV. They just sleep through the whole baseball season on TV. They always hurry. They can't keep count. When did one of them say, let's go to the Botanic Gardens? We made them princes. And now somebody has got to pay. They don't share. They don't care. How the fuck did they ever get over on us? Here's an epithamalion. From Jonathan to Jacob, from Jonathan to Yaakov, to Jacob to Jake, on the marriage of Jay Rabinowitz and Meryl Rose. When I first met Jonathan, he was but a lad, a smug, handsome boy who roamed the Metropolitan Museum searching out snuff boxes. He could top me at anything, but I thought I had him when I said, my father's a psychoanalyst. He happily replied, my mother's a psychoanalyst. He chided me for bringing a baby into the world, the awful world. Shelley thrust her pregnant finger into his gaze at Alan's kitchen party. Once on the phone, Jonathan impatiently called Alan a creep. I was aghast at such a word. I mentioned it to Ted Berrigan as he strode in to find pills and looked for our journals thief. Yes, Alan is a creep, but don't forget, he is also Allen Ginsberg. My first lesson in complex identification. The slender youth, inspiration for Ginsberg's rune, went his ways, and we did not connect till he was Yaakov, and then Jacob, then Jake. He met his angel, Meryl, and they have been wrestling far past the dawn. Today I venture to the fertile wastelands, that's New Jersey, to celebrate this tussle, for the angel will win, and Jacob will limp. But the path is a yellow ladder of scars and joys. And when they ask each other for their names, they remain the same till time's end. 11-year look back to 9/11, in memoriam, Stephen Jacobson. The night before, a storm hit ahead of midnight. Lightning crashed over downtown Manhattan. Thunder shook the windows and several tenements were struck, frying modems and phones. The city at dawn glistened like a body emerging from the shower. Streets were washed clean, and the cars and street signs revealed their true shapes without the accumulated grime. Jauntily, I strode down First Avenue to the F train. In a few minutes, I was in downtown Brooklyn, ready to teach Composition 101 in a windowless classroom at 8:30 a.m. We were reading the first chapter of Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. She's a young black girl in the employ of an insensitive white woman. The woman cannot pronounce her name and so simplifies the child's name. In revenge, the little girl drops a casserole dish that had been in the woman's family for generations. Angelou thoroughly describes the crashing of the dish, the confusion that ensues at the moment of studying the words that signify crash, bang, fracture. I heard students running in the hallway. The class had 10 minutes left. I paid no heed to the hallway noise. After dismissing the class, I went to the hallway to see what was up. Students were gathered at the windows that faced the battery. There they were, the two blazing towers, trick candles that cannot be blown out. The students and I watched for several minutes. The first tower lurched a bit, a gasp. Then the first tower slowly collapsed into itself. I thought, here I am on the plains of the Holy Land watching the Tower of Babel as it falls. There was some laughter among the students. The nervous laughter that signifies an inability to respond. I spoke for the first time. A lot of people just died. A Muslim student lifted his hands in an open gesture and praised God in Arabic. At that moment, the loudspeakers crackled to evacuate the building. I had no cell phone then. Besides, the cell phone towers weren't working. I had a tiny radio and turned on the All News AM. The sidewalks were jammed with people, were randomly going nowhere fast. The radio said there were 5 planes in the air waiting to strike. The police had no orders. I walked to the Manhattan Bridge to be stopped and ordered away. There was no going into Manhattan. I sat on a small triangle of grass at the Brooklyn foot of the Manhattan Bridge, watched the continual stream of shocked people coming out of Manhattan. Women in high heels gratefully flung off their shoes, dropped onto the grass. People talked to themselves and those around them. I was in the subway going to work and intense air pressure hit us, made the tunnel shake. I was evacuated and ran out of there. I sat for hours thinking about high-speed trains. We need high-speed trains in this country. They cannot be driven into buildings. There's no way to call my wife or mother in California. Mid-afternoon, a woman came to told us there had been a halfway house open down the street, bathrooms and telephone. I waited in line and finally called my wife. We then knew we were both alive. I had no idea when travel back to Manhattan would resume. Late afternoon, I heard that the F train was running. I went into Manhattan in a jammed subway car, and I popped up at First Avenue in Houston. There was lost-looking soldiers giving directions. No one was allowed below Houston. I made my way home. The bars were full. Everyone seemed drunk on fear and booze. As soon as I got into my own house, I remembered Steve. Steve was a stalwart part of our morning minyan at Town and Village Synagogue. Steve worked all night as an engineer for WPIX Channel 11. He worked on top of the World Trade Center, underneath the big broadcast antennae. He opened the chapel every morning before 7 a.m. when he got off work. Steve had taught me so much. He taught me how to rap tefillin my first time. I copied his minhag since I had none of my own. I remembered that Steve had been happy that his schedule finally had been switched from all night to all day. I prayed that he had made minyan. I called a fellow minyaner, asked, did Steve open the shul today? A sad, sad no was the reply. I sat in my living room, my face in my hands, wept. To this day, I have a hard time looking at Hagbah, lest one of those twin towers of Torah falls before my eyes. This next poem is also an anniversary poem in a way. And it has an epigraph from Nikolai Gogol from the Overcoat. Soon there spread before him those deserted streets, which are not cheerful in the daytime, to say nothing of the evening. Now they were even more dim and lonely. The lanterns began to grow rarer. Oil, evidently, had been less liberally supplied. Then came wooden houses and fences, not a soul anywhere, not only the snow sparkled on the streets. And mournfully veiled the low roofed cabins with their closed shutters. He approached the spot where the street crossed a vast square with houses barely visible on the further side, a spot which seemed a fearful desert. Storm surge in salt marsh. I carry a flashlight now. Once my student from the Bronx at City Tech, wrote an essay about a guy on the subway who had a cardboard tray of flashlights. And he sells $1, $1, $1, $1, $1. Ford train going downtown, all of a sudden stops, lights go out. Student says, I'll take one. Man sings, $2. Con Ed explodes in kitchen window. Each turns to each, the other, lights out. Stuck head out over East 10th Street. Wave peaks headed cross town. In dark, my old mother, oh. Clad in boots, lumber through water, warm like the sea. Mother waits, 2 candles lit, walking, flash flood near Bullhead City, silk hot with sand. I walked out of the headlights, toes feeling for a road till I could walk no more. Uncle Bill helped out. Getting pulled under that moment, coming home on foot, the city bustles, stores hum as dark dissolves, and so does the artificial day. Walking these streets 4 decades, I know where I am. Parapet edges can be discerned. The street surface darkens, cloaks each immediate step. I shine my flashlight down, see by bending my chin down as going downstairs in bifocals. Then flash the lights up, signaling to those hiding in the black creases, I'm here. How close the buildings seem, flickering existence, slow-moving car headlights beams, candles sighing in windows, my street bathed in beckoning moonlight, people pass, keeping a distance, respect for the fear. On the last day, I go to the land of the living, buy my mother a new flashlight, carry it to her late afternoon. She holds it in her bony fingers. Push the button, one end a beam, the other a lantern. The lantern comes on, and then as quickly as they left, the lights bang on. My mother looks at me. I look back. We can see each other. What happened just now, Mother? She can't find the words. Flicks off the flashlight. As I walk home, the streets seem broad and open. I enter my door, my room fully lit, see the dust on the ceiling and dirty walls, the waste of all that light in full illumination. We yet live in the airlessness of dim. Advice. The young man stood reproving me. You see, this is the age of the asshole. You have to be an asshole to get ahead. Everyone is an asshole. I had to learn how to be an asshole, and then I had to learn how to be a bigger asshole. I have a master's degree in asshole. The only thing you can trust is that everyone is an asshole. You didn't teach me to be an asshole. Your friends aren't assholes. Those old beat soldiers saw the asshole as an old comrade. The academic old man gloried in the products of the asshole. Reams of old man shit filled the libraries. Dr. Williams would say today that there are a lot of assholes out there. The wrinkled hole, the nether eye, the back door, the crab-like joker. No talent texting driver, parking space grubber, the one your lover always leaves you for. Bully neighbor. If you are not an asshole, you are an asshole. Takes one to know one. I'm learning to be a real hole in the ass. Your ears are little hairy holes, like your asshole. Every word I say is going into your asshole. Every word you say from now on is your asshole talking through you. That new job, book, contract, lover awaits you, you lucky asshole. And as I once heard the poet Ed Marshall say, I will break on this one. Raking back then. Raking back then was a tall order. Yellow tinged with green and orange, brown leaves dotted wet grass lawn. The rake was taller than I was. It had broad spread of bamboo fingers. I thought each leaf had a dead pilot in it. It fell and twirled in a death spiral from twigged height to sodden ground. I learned to slowly work the perimeter, slightly overlapping the years of schooling, of being lost among leaves. Slowly I pulled the rake, building a line of leaf hills. I was a leaf in the middle of the pile. I was invisible in the mirror. I raked as the night dreams sang of a happy jot of autumn color. The raking starts to come to a point. Leaves flung high, dance back to